cuties, it's Queenie. I kind of wanted to ramble tonight. I have a drink, and there are some things that I want to talk about again. I don't know how bite-sized this is going to be. I like to keep my videos bite-sized, but I'm not making any promises. What I want to talk about tonight is what you don't need in order to be a tarot reader, okay? So we're going to be busting some of these really commonplace tarot misconceptions. The very first thing I want to address is that you need to be gifted your first tarot deck, or your tarot decks need to be gifts. No, that is totally false. It's a superstition. It's a nice idea, it's cute, but you are not going to have bad luck if you buy yourself your own deck, okay? Half of us wouldn't be tarot readers if we waited for someone else to buy us a deck. We wouldn't even be here where we are, okay? So don't wait for someone else to buy you a deck. Also, why would you let someone else buy you a deck when you could pick one out yourself? There are thousands of decks out there. How is someone else going to find you the one that you are gonna vibe with perfectly? It's so much better to pick one out for yourself. And I'll probably do a video about that. You're choosing your first tarot deck on another day. But misconception number 1: you don't need to wait for someone to buy you a deck to be a tarot reader. So, number 2, you don't need to be psychic to read tarot cards. Tarot reading and psychic readings are not the same thing. You don't have to have a psychic bone in your body to be able to effectively read tarot. And I know this because I am not psychic. I feel like the word psychic has these connotations, and they are usually talking about, the clairaudience, clairsentience, whatever. There's like a shit ton of them. All you need is your intuition to use tarot cards. And that is something that we literally all have. Everybody has intuition. I don't believe everybody has psychic abilities per se. I really see them as two different things. Some people don't. And, I'm not arguing with them. I'm not saying that they're wrong. But the way I see it, psychic abilities and intuition are two separate things. And you can totally read tarot really effectively with your psychic abilities. And there are psychic mediums and psychic readers who use tarot cards, I guess, to focus or whatever. But they're not necessary. You don't need to be psychic in order to use tarot cards. Literally anyone can learn how to read tarot. Literally anyone. If I can teach myself to read tarot, you can teach yourself to read tarot too. Number 3. Number 3. You don't need to have a spirit, animal, ancestor guide. You don't need a god or goddess. You don't need to be connecting to something other than yourself to read tarot. You can do it all on your own. You don't need something other. You don't need anything sending you messages. You don't need to be connecting with ghosts or spirits. You don't need any of that stuff. You don't need it. It's not necessary. And yes, tarot can be a great way to communicate with spirit guides or ancestors or past lives or whatever. You can totally do all that. But if it's not your cup of tea, you don't need it. You don't need to subscribe to something that's not vibing with you. So if that's not your thing, forget about it. It's not necessary. Number 4. This is take 2 of number 4 because my cat just I don't know, knocked a whole bunch of crap down. Number 4. This one I have like a personal investment in, okay? You don't need to practice witchcraft to be a tarot reader. If you follow me on Tumblr, you know that I get a lot of asks about witchcraft practices and like deity stuff, and I don't do any of that. Hashtag Queenie's not a witch. You don't need to be a witch to do tarot. You don't need to be Wiccan. You don't need to be pagan. Tarot has no specific culture or religion. It started out as a game, and it has evolved as it spread. It was a card game. It doesn't have any religious ties to anything. So it can be used whatever you do, whatever practice you're in, if you even have one. You can be an atheist and use tarot. You don't need to be a witch. You can be Christian and use tarot. There are actually a lot of Christian or Catholic even tarot readers. So they're not tied. They're not linked. And you don't need to do all the witchy stuff to justify your interest in tarot at all. Expanding on that a little bit, you don't need to cast a circle before you do a tarot reading. You don't need to meditate before you do a tarot reading. You don't need to ground and center yourself to do a tarot reading. All of these things are great suggestions if that's your thing. Okay? They're meant to help you get in the zone. But if you don't need that stuff to get in your tarot zone, skip it. Don't need it. Just because, everyone else is doing it doesn't mean you have to too. There's really no wrong way to prepare yourself for a tarot reading. So, if you don't want to be popping in the headphones and listening to half an hour of binaural beats before every reading you do, you don't have to. You don't need to take care of your cards the way that everybody else says you need to take care of your cards. You don't need to wrap your tarot cards in black silk. You don't need to cleanse them. You don't need to sleep with them under your pillow. You don't need to leave them out on the windowsill under the light of a full moon. You don't need to sprinkle them with salt. I don't even know. Some of this stuff I do. I do cleanse my tarot cards sometimes, very occasionally. I skip it when I can. It's not a regular thing. But I mean, this is all stuff that is very individualized. And although a lot of people do it, it doesn't mean that you have to. If you feel like trying it and seeing how it works for you, that's great. Try everything. Try anything. But if it doesn't work for you, don't force it. There are no rules. There are no hard and fast rules about how to tarot, okay? And that's like what this video is getting at. So, there are a lot of great things that you can do, but none of them are required. None of it is required of you at all. So, number 5, I think, of things you don't need to be a tarot reader. And as much as I love these things, you don't need them, okay? Number 2. You do not need these things. You don't need any of this shit to be a tarot reader, okay? Crystals are wonderful. I love crystals so much. I'm a total crystal whore, but you don't need them to be a tarot reader. If you don't want a bunch of rocks collecting dust, if you think they're just a waste of money, if you are just not into the crystal thing, skip it. Skip it. You don't need crystals to enhance your abilities. If you don't believe in that, they're totally just accessories for some people. Yes, a lot of people believe that they have metaphysical properties that will, boost your intuition and like bring forth positive energies. Like a lot of people like to do rose quartz and love readings and stuff like that. But it's another thing that's not necessary. You don't need to have crystals all over the place in order to be a good tarot reader. It's just stuff. It's just random extra stuff, and you really don't need it. Number 6. Okay, and this one might come as a surprise, but you hardly even need a tarot deck. Okay, and you definitely don't need the Rider-Waite Tarot to be a tarot reader. You can make your own on index cards. You can modify a couple of poker decks to make your tarot deck. You can get an app on your phone that has a complete deck in it, and you can do readings with that. The only thing you need to be a tarot reader is some form of a tarot system, whether you make your own. You can buy a deck. Of course you can buy a deck. I highly recommend you get a physical deck because there's just something about it that you will never get from anything else. But apps work. If you don't have the money right now, you can get them for free on your phone. There are apps for Android and iPhone. And a lot of people say they're really effective. So you don't need to have a physical deck to even be reading tarot. And you don't need to start with Rider-Waite. I didn't start with Rider-Waite. And that goes back to, your first deck having to be a gift and all that. Pick out a deck that you like. I mean, there are some guidelines that I would recommend. But whatever. Pick a deck that you like. This is all extra stuff. You don't need to follow the rules. Just do what you want. So, 6 things you don't need to be a tarot reader. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that I was able to debunk some of the more common misconceptions about reading tarot, especially for the newbies. If you have any questions, if I missed something, please let me know. Give me a comment. If you like to listen to me ramble occasionally, do me a huge favor and subscribe. I don't have 100 subscribers yet, so I can't get my own custom YouTube URL, and I would really like that. So if you could just do me a favor and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble and kind of just having a chat with me. I hope you have a really good night, and I will see you soon.